The underground palace of Alabasta. The place where the historical text was once hidden has been transformed into a secret underground port. The seawater flowing in the harbor showed a strange black color. The sea leads directly to the sea. It was supposed to be normal seawater, but it seemed to be affected by some irreversible effects, and it turned into pitch black. If someone is here, they will be shocked to discover that the root that makes the seawater and everything around it is dyed black as a behemoth that lies in the endless darkness. The whole body of the behemoth is made of some kind of black metal, and the bottom of the ship that can't be seen, the black muzzle, it is an unimaginable battleship. The fact that the warships are just there side by side gives people a sense of depression of breathing difficulties. What else could be a warship with such a majestic power besides Pluton? At the same time, at the height of thousands of miles away from where Pluton is, two figures of a man and a woman stand impressively above the clouds. The man's posture is stalwart, and the power that is invisible seems to be more palpitating than Pluton. The girl is very cute, with a pink dress and a silk ribbon tied tightly around Xiaoman's waist, which outlines a curvaceous curve that is not yet fully unfolded, but is already enough to make people stare. Vivi's jade porcelain-like lotus arm, tightly holding the arm of the man next to him, with a pretty face, July 20th, looking around with joy. Clouds and mists, clouds and cranes haunt from time to time, so that the girl who saw this scene for the first time felt like being in heaven. Vivi rejoiced. So beautiful. After she finished speaking, she had big blue eyes, shy and joyful, and secretly watched the man beside her, and then looked towards the sea below her feet. In Vivi's cognition, the boundless and vast sea, when viewed from here at this moment, seemed small, even a little insignificant. Vivi knew in her heart that it was not that the sea became small, but that she stood too high. What about the vast sea? Vivi clasped the man's arms tighter, raised his head, and looked at the man's handsome face with admiration, and thought, "Brother Dover," but a man standing in the sky. Dover lowered his head at this time, saw Vivi admire the small eyes, smiled slightly, and pointed a finger on the girl's upright Chong nose, and said, "Get started, Vivi, let us witness together how powerful the legendary Pluton is." Vivi lit his little head vigorously. Don't mention how happy Vivi was to witness such a moment with Brother Dover. That was enough to be recorded in history. Beside Vivi, there is actually a black figure that only Vivi can see. "Mingming, let's start, don't make too much noise," the black and slim figure said. "Understood, Master Vivi." Soon. Alabasta, thousands of miles away. The originally solid desert surface suddenly cracked. No, it's not cracking. But those countless sands, all turned into white lines, automatically separated to the sides. It turns out that the surface here has been assimilated into a line by Dover's awakening ability. This means that without Dover's permission, no one can approach here. The surface of the earth was separated to both sides, and in an instant, the sun's rays surged in, illuminating the ancient weapon Pluton that had been in the dark for so many years. Next moment, this ancient behemoth, the god of destruction that has been dormant since ancient times, has awakened. I saw the whole body of Pluton, suddenly bursting into black light. When the black light blooms, even the sun's rays must be avoided. Buzzing. In the void, a dull sound like a roar of a giant beast suddenly sounded. Upon listening carefully, it was clearly coming from the dark holes on the Pluton deck. Pluton is completely different from ordinary warships. Its blast holes are not on the sides of the hull, but on the deck, the wide and boundless deck. There are 108 black holes covering the deck. It seems to be a hole from hell, and people can't help but feel endless chill at a glance. Buzz. Jay ran. One of the dark holes shot out a huge pointed cone. The speed of the pointed cone was incredible. Although it was huge, it was so fast that even the people living in Alabasta did not find it. The sharp cone-shaped object came directly into the atmosphere. As if receiving a certain order, he flew straight in one direction and flew at extreme speed. There, exactly where Dover and Vivi are, coming. Standing high in the sky, Dover's pupils shrank suddenly. He noticed that an indescribable object was quickly approaching him. Even with Dover's strength, he felt a great danger. "Are you here? I didn't see it." Vivi doesn't have the tyrannical sight of Dover. How can he perceive movement thousands of miles away? But soon, Vivi didn't need to perceive, because in her sapphire blue pupils, a black pointed object was already printed. Is this the shell that Mingming fired? It looks completely different from ordinary shells? Vivi asked curiously. Dover looked at the huge sharp cone-shaped object, and only looked at the appearance. It was almost indistinguishable from the intercontinental missile in Dover's impression. And the power of intercontinental missiles, even 4 Emperors-level powerhouses, must be carefully weighed. Howl, howl, ha ha ha. Dover laughed. It really didn't disappoint me, ancient weapon Pluton. He stroked Vivi's waist-length sky-blue hair and smiled deeply. This can't be called a cannonball, but a missile, the strongest missile. Missile? Vivi was thinking about the new word he heard for the first time. The black missile sent by Pluton drew a rounded arc above the sky. Then, he fell to the huge island at the feet of Dover, which is comparable to a large country. The island is an uninhabited desert island. There is only a large dense forest. This island is considered a land that has not been discovered by humans. But on this day, just outside the island, an ordinary ship arrived. Looking at the skull logo on the ship, it is clear that it is still a pirate ship. Ha 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 ha. Let Lousy discover such a big island with no one. God has eyes, take care of me, Krieg. The captain of this pirate ship is a fierce man in golden armor, who turned out to be Luffy and Krieg in the original book. Because the chaos in the world is getting worse, Krieg, who is also full of ambitions, did not wait any longer. He entered the Grand Line a few years earlier than in the original book. This time, although Krieg was not chased by Hawkeye, he was arrogant and quickly defeated in the increasingly tragic pirate campaign on the Grand Line. Krieg escaped from the Grand Line and returned to his hometown of East Blue. Unexpectedly, his hometown of East Blue was also occupied by Bellamy, the most prestigious pirate in East Blue. Krieg had no choice but to continue to flee. Unexpectedly, the sky is endless, and Krieg has encountered such a large island. With this island, and plunder enough population, Lousy can become the king of a country. Revenge the bastards of Bellamy. Revenge the bastards of the Grand Line. Krieg's eyes were full of madness, and he shouted, "Little ones, go to the island. This island belongs to our Krieg pirate group from now on." Roar. The members of the Krieg pirates are in great spirits, and the happy ones are about to go to the island. But the action was blocked by the animals on the island that suddenly ran wildly. What's the matter? Are these animals crazy? Krieg was knocked down by a wild boar and yelled furiously. "Captain, something is wrong. These animals are running away, they are afraid." Akin, the brainiest under Krieg, said suddenly. "Afraid? Humph." Krieg smiled and said, "These foolish animals, aren't they afraid of Lousy?" After all, Krieg ordered the cannon to kill the animals that were irrational. The trembling voice of the gunner came, "Captain Krieg, there is something in the sky." "Huh? Did Lousy tell you to fire, but didn't you see it?" Krieg was extremely annoyed, with a glare from the corner of his eye, high in the air, but he was suddenly stunned. "What the hell is that?" Krieg looked at the huge black object falling from the sky at a rapid speed, and his whole body was shocked. "No. Get on the boat and get out of here." A Jhin felt an unprecedented panic in his heart. Without saying a word, he dragged the sluggish Krieg back to the boat. Go on, a Jhin roared desperately. But it was too late. The Pluton missile that fell from the sky was in the eyes of Akin's shocking children, in the eyes of Krieg and the Krieg pirate group petrified. It crashed on the island. Boom. The unspeakable terrorist explosion will explode in the next moment. A huge mushroom cloud rose to the sky. It is hard to describe the shock of this scene. All I knew was that everything was ruined in that explosion. Whether 4.6 is a forest or an animal, together with the land of that huge island, all are wiped out. The violent weather wave caused by the explosion arrived at the Krieg pirate ship almost in an instant. There was endless fear and despair in Ah Jin's pupils. Is this the end of the world? The Captain Krieg was finally awake at this time, but at the last second he thought. A Lauzia-S island, Lauzia-S country immediately afterwards. The entire Krieg pirate group was swept in by the surge of air. The golden armor on Krieg's body was shattered without being able to hold on for a moment. The dream of revenge that he had just dreamed was completely reduced to a joke under this world-destroying missile. Above the sky, Dover naturally noticed the arrival of the Krieg pirates. However, a small person like Krieg, in his eyes, is no different from an ant. Dover stared only at the large island under his feet. When the smoke dissipated, there was nothing on the surface of the sea, as if the island just now didn't exist at all. The power of Pluton's one shot, terrifying, will completely destroy an island comparable to a large country. Dover's eyes were very deep, and he smiled evilly. Howl, isn't it just right for such a weapon to be used to destroy the world? The power source of Pluton is similar to nuclear power. Now, with the dark energy of VV Dark Fruit, the power of Pluton is even more terrifying. Even if it doesn't move, it can destroy a country thousands of miles away. Dover is quite satisfied with the power of Pluton. This is a superkiller, and its role is not just as simple as destroying an island. Dover's eyes were extremely deep. When that day comes, when 108 Pluton missiles descend on Marine Headquarters, Marineford. Those people, how wonderful will the expressions on their faces show? The Great Undersea Prison, Impel Down, the world's largest prison, has the title of Bronze Wall and Iron Wall, and holds the most murderous criminals in the world. Not to mention the first 5 floors, only the criminals imprisoned in the 6th floor of Eternal Hell, everyone inside is enough to shake the world. Such as the Crescent Hunter, the Fruit of the Dog and the Dog the Phantom Beast species. Nine-Tails Fox Fruit ability, Caitlin Butterfly Beauty. Like the San Juan Wolf who is bigger than the giants. Such as the Big Cask Bascachot, the Evil King Abalo Pizarro. These 4 people are all members of the 4 Emperors group that Blackbeard 11 brought out from the Great Undersea Prison in the original work. There are world-famous powerhouses such as World Destroyer, Burndyworld, etc. And there are a few more people who are unable to conquer even Blackbeard who eats the real dark fruit. One is the Lonely Red Earl, and Sengoku calls it Barlaric Letterfield who can keep pace with Roger and Whitebeard alone. The other person, the crew of the original One Piece Roger, heir to the devil, Douglas Bullet, on par with Pluton Rayleigh. These terrifying existences, just their names, make the world tremble. And for these people, in history, only the legendary pirate, Golden Lion Shiki, successfully escaped from the prison Impel Down. It is conceivable how strong it is. In fact, the reason why Impel Down is called a prison that cannot be escaped is inseparable from 2 people. That is the warden of Impel Down, Magellan, the poisonous fruit ability. And the chief guard, Shiryu, the top master of Kendo. The 2 can be described as 2 insurmountable mountains that suppress Impel Down. In the original book, if it weren't for Shiryu's rebellion, Blackbeard's decades-long plan would probably fall under Magellan's poison. But now, outside of Impel Down, a guest came. This guest, however, asked Magellan and Shiryu to come out together to greet them. Your Excellency Virgo, it's been a long time since I saw you. Magellan laughed loudly to the tall man in a plain white coat standing on the warship. It was Virgo who came from Alabasta. Virgo jumped from the warship, shook hands with Magellan, and smiled humbly. Warden Magellan, I haven't seen you for a year, your style is better than ever. The 2 laughed. Magellan has a very good reputation in Marine, who saved a country more than a year ago and sent the serious criminal Crocodile to Impel Down. Magellan suddenly turned her head and smiled at Virgo. Brother, recently in Marine, the voice for promoting you as an admiral candidate is very high. Wilgo's eyes flashed, and his expression became more humble, and he continued to say, don't dare to be. The 2 walked into Impel Down together. Virgo glanced imperceptibly, Shiryu walking beside Magellan. The chief caretaker, whom the young master had taken care of, also investigated when Virgo came. He was notoriously brutal in Impel Down, and it is said that his relationship with Magellan was not very harmonious. This person is the purpose of Virgo. Regardless of the superficial harmony between Virgo and Magellan, Virgo knew in his heart that Magellan is a staunch supporter of the government and will definitely stand on the opposite side of the young master in the future. Therefore, to instigate Shiryu and deal with troublesome Magellan when that day comes, it is indispensable. When the group walked into the big prison and came to the elevator leading to the 6th floor of the Eternal Hell, Magellan suddenly clutched his stomach and smiled embarrassedly at Virgo. The old problem is committed again. Shiryu, come and accompany the Lord Virgo. After speaking, Magellan hurriedly clutched his stomach and ran away. Although the poisonous fruit gave Magellan strong and unmatched strength, it also made him often have a stomachache, and the time to move freely every day was not too much. Virgo and Shiryu walked into the elevator. When the metal door made a click and closed, the humble expression on Virgo's face disappeared. Shiryu wore a marine coat, dark purple robes, smoking a cigar, and a thunderstorm with a famous knife hanging around his waist. His fierce eyes revealed cruelty from time to time. In Impel Down, criminals fear Shiryu more than Magellan. Because what Shiryu likes most is to torture and kill criminals. The number of criminals who were accidentally killed by Shiryu was 90 if not 100. Ha ha ha. Shiryu's purple-black mouth with a cigar in his mouth suddenly bends, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he stared at Virgo. Sure enough, you are not such a simple person. Magellan, the naive fellow, was deceived by your surface, right? Virgo's expression remained unchanged, and said lightly. How you said that? Huh. Shiryu sneered, don't underestimate Lousy. Just now you peeked at Lousy, Lousy found it. Return, Shiryu's sneer became more gloomy, and with the unique cold atmosphere of Impel Grand Prison, it sounded more terrifying. Although your performance has almost no flaws, the cold blood and cruelty hidden in your bones, Lousy can't be more familiar. Shiryu himself is a cold-blooded and cruel person, so although he can't see Virgo's disguise, he can feel that Virgo is essentially the same kind of person as him. From the glance of Virgo and the indifferent expression of 720 after entering the elevator, Shiryu directly confirmed that he felt right. As expected, the young master asked to pay attention. Chief Warden Shiryu, you are really extraordinary. Virgo turned to Shiryu and said with a twist of his mouth. Seeing the appearance of the disguise being dismantled, Virgo also looked unhurried. Shiryu couldn't help frowning. Moreover, what happened to the young master who paid attention to him in the other party's mouth? Could it be that it wasn't that he dismantled Virgo, but that the other party had already attacked himself and deliberately exposed the flaws? Shiryu's heart burst, his right hand couldn't help touching the hilt of the sword. Yin said. What do you mean by this? Besides, don't forget, Virgo, here is Impel Down. No matter how powerful you are, as long as I shout out, you will immediately fall into endless hell. Unexpectedly, the arc of Virgo's mouth expanded even more, and said. You wouldn't do that, Chief Warden Shiryu. Virgo's eyes revealed extremely pious gazes, and he said something that made Shiryu's body shocked. The world is undergoing unprecedented changes, and the old world will be completely destroyed. The person who creates the order of the new era is the Supreme Young Master. Reign Shiryu, I know that you are also a very ambitious and unwilling to be lonely. Instead of being a running dog of Marine in Impel Down, it is better to submit to the young master and be a participant in creating a new era. How about? Shiryu frowned deeply. A man like Virgo who was close to Marine Admiral's strength was so pious and loyal to another person, which gave Shiryu a big shock. At the same time, the words in Virgo's words that create a new world order also made Shiryu's eyes shine. As Virgo said, Shiryu is a man of his own ambition. He was willing to spend his whole life in Impel Down, and he was always held down by Magellan. If given the opportunity, Shiryu will not hesitate to betray Marine and world government, leaving his mark in the turbulent era in the future. Just like in the original book, when he saw Blackbeard for the first time, he joined him decisively. And Blackbeard is also convinced that a man like Shiryu will definitely help him. But the prerequisite for Shiryu to rebel is to allow him to see enough possibilities, enough to disrupt the entire world. A few words from Virgo alone are far from enough. After all, Virgo is not Dover, and he does not have the kind of hockey that makes people unable to refute and reject the world. Boom. Shiryu spit out a puff of smoke, staring at Virgo slowly. Although I believe a man like you can't lie, but just a few words are not convincing enough. The world is still under the dominance of Marine in the world government. Even this Impel prison, Magellan is not a messy guy. The young master in your mouth should have some plans already. Otherwise, it would be impossible to make Lousy be loyal to him with just a few words. When Virgo heard the words, he was not angry but rather happy, and he admired the young master, even more so. As early as Alabasta, the young master asserted that as long as Shiryu reveals a little bit of information, he will definitely turn back. At this moment, what the young master said is really true. Wilgo smiled. Guardian Shiryu, the young master's plan cannot be fully told to you, but it can let you know a thing or two about how to destroy Impel Down. A look of surprise appeared in Shiryu's eyes. Impel Down is the world's largest prison, Marine and world government's important support for the threat of the world. If part of that person's plan was to destroy Impel Down, that would be earth-shattering enough. The elevator descends quickly. Soon, we reach the 6th floor, Eternal Hell. Shiryu and Virgo walked into the 6th floor, and they couldn't hide their surprise on their faces. Could it be that the mysterious young master, the dark hand that destroyed Impel Down, was placed on the 6th floor? This is really hard to imagine. After all, the criminals imprisoned on the 6th floor, even Shiryu, dare not neglect. Several of them, even Shiryu, were extremely jealous. The atmosphere of the 6th floor eternal hell is not as cruel, hot, cold, or hungry like the first 5 floors. This place is like an ordinary prison, with only a cold iron cage, and no other means of torture. Because even the world government that made it here knows that those so-called inhumane tortures have no meaning for the existence of the 6th layer. As soon as Shiryu and Vergov entered the 6th floor, in the darkness, they stared at them with ghost-like eyes. Hey, isn't this the chief caretaker, Lord Shiryu, asterisk. Yo, there is also a little marine. What, are you going to give us an extra meal today? Gia. This ghost place, lousy is so boring, let lousy go out. In the cage. There was a fierce laughter, as terrible as a ghost. To shut up. Shiryu pulled out the thunderstorm, a brutal breath proceeded from him. But the criminals on the 6th floor hadn't seen anything, and they were still yelling frantically. It wasn't until Shiryu slashed one of them on the neck that the shouting gradually ceased. Virgo's complexion remained the same, and the two went deeper and deeper, as if they were almost reaching the depths of eternal hell. Shiryu frowned and said, "Go down, those people I don't want to provoke. Are you sure that your young master, the dark hand left behind, is one of those people?" Shiryu couldn't help but wonder. The people imprisoned in the depths of eternal hell are all maddening guys. The mysterious young master in Virgo's mouth can really conquer one of them and use it for him, and even willingly lurk in a hell cage like impelled down. But soon after, when Shiryu saw Virgo walking towards the man who was sent to the big prison by himself a year ago, the crocodile-like ferocious man, Shiryu was taken aback for a moment, and there was no more doubt. He. It is actually the sand crocodile of the original 7 warlords of the sea, the mysterious young master. Your handwriting is really unexpected. Alabasta. Dover was experimenting with Pluton's power, and it didn't take long before he received news from Blackbeard. After killing Sachi and escaping from Whitebeard's territory, Blackbeard fled to the front half of the Grand Line, near East Blue. His people thought that from now on, the sea and the sky were broad and the world was allowed to gallop, but he didn't know that his every move fell in Dover's eyes. Hearing that Blackbeard had arrived at Gaia Island at this moment, and, as Dover did not expect, the Kid Ace had chased Gaia Island. The corner of Dover's mouth was hooked, and there was a flash of playful color in Shiesui's pupils. The prelude to the new era is about to begin. How can you not witness such an interesting opening? What? The girl lying weakly on Dover, wearing only a thin shirt, raised her big sapphire eyes and looked at the man's face that made her more and more addicted. The girl's eyebrows are like willow silk, her muscles are like baishui, her waist is like a string, and her mouth is like a shellfish. During the lazy questioning, let alone the unique flattery of a young girl, Dover smiled deeply, put his arms around Vivi's slender waist, and stood up. The two of them put on their clothes, and under Dover's footsteps, they disappeared into Alabasta, the most magnificent palace. Gaia Island. A bar. Blackbeard Teach was sitting there, eating and drinking wildly. Excitement he has never had before. Finally ate dark fruit and gained the unique dark power in the world. The plan that has been brewing for decades can finally be implemented. From then on, the era of the old father Whitebeard will pass, and the era of his Blackbeard Teach will follow. Thief ha. Blackbeard gushed a bowl of wine, opened his teethless mouth, and laughed wildly. Human ambitions will never disappear. Chasing seemingly unattainable dreams is the most interesting thing. Thief ha. The others in the bar looked at Blackbeard inexplicably. Crazy, this man should be a lunatic. Even a madman who dares to make trouble in Master Bellamy's place will not eat kabuto and leave. The ridiculous ridicule of the people around did not change Blackbeard's expression at all. Ha. Captain, you are being laughed at, do you want to kill them all? Beside Blackbeard, Giza's Badges, the extremely strong champion, smiled arrogantly. When he opened his mouth, he was actually going to kill everyone in the tavern. There were still a few people around Badgers. They are a Tokoshi fan, Oka, Ghost Security Officer Lafayette, and Shinigami Poison Q. They were all subordinates that Blackbeard had found long ago, and as soon as Blackbeard defected, he immediately followed Blackbeard. Do not. Faced with Badgers' proposal, Blackbeard said. You can't get Marine's attention for these ignorant people. Blackbeard stood up abruptly, looking crazy and awkward. If you want to fight, You should find someone who has weight. Didn't it mean that this is the place of that guy named Bellamy? Thief, haha. I heard that he is the big pirate of East Blue. Go find him. Think of him a gift to the government. Bellamy did a good job at East Blue. The prestige is growing, and the site is expanding very quickly. It has become a big pirate with a bounty of more than 100 million yuan, and it is the hegemon of East Blue. But because of the corruption of money and the coercion, many generals in Marine have been lured. So far, Marine has not bothered him. And following Dover's orders, Bellamy has also lost a lot of arrogance in recent years, and has accumulated a paradise in Arlong Paradise. Just waiting for the day when the sun and the moon changed, and attacked brazenly, for the Supreme Lord Dover, to win East Blue in one fell swoop. As for the Gaia Island in the first half of the Grand Line, Bellamy was included in the bag more than a year ago and became the Tanjahid family's sphere of influence. Blackbeard Teach didn't know this. As he walked out of the bar with his little brother, he smiled and said, "If the bounty is over 100 million pirates' heads, exchange the Shicibukai to the government, isn't it too much?" Ha ha ha. Captain, you were really joking. But the guy named Bellamy, let me solve it. Badges chuckled. Blackbeard's eyes flashed crazily, and the plan he had endured for decades could finally be implemented, which made him excited. Catch Bellamy, the East Blue pirate, and become Shicibukai. Next, use Shichibukai's identity to lure Daddy Whitebeard and Marine into a war. In the midst of the chaos, enter the great undersea prison Impel Down, completely release 723 the vicious criminals inside, and conquer the strongest inside and become your own subordinates. Then, Father Whitebeard's body is getting worse and worse. Even if he is not killed by Marine, he can't last long, right? At that time, his Blackbeard Teach can use the Dark Fruit ability to capture the Shock Fruit of the Father Whitebeard and become an unprecedented Double Fruit ability. The secret that neutralizes the abilities of all capable people with one hand, the shock that destroys the world with the other hand. Just thinking about it made Blackbeard tremble with excitement. If everything develops as in the original book, and Blackbeard's plan will go smoother than he imagined. He not only messed up Impel Down and won the power of Shock Fruit, but he also became the new 4 emperors who inherited the Whitebeard site. However, it is a pity that the premise of all this is that Blackbeard has not been placed on the endless sky, with a pair of indifferent eyes like a god looking down on an ant. That person is so ugly. Vivi hugged a man's solid arms, beautiful eyebrows, and a girl's unique, charming and lazy air just getting up. She looked at Blackbeard and the group of people below with big eyes, pursed her little mouth, and said in disgust, "It's like an inferior product that is incompletely manufactured." Immediately, I realized that these words were too unfair, and Vivi spit out his tongue cutely. Dover smiled lightly. Vivi ate the real dark fruit, while Blackbeard Teach ate only a scallop, not even 1/10 the effect of the real product. In contrast, it is really just a shoddy product. Dover was also watching the actions of Blackbeard alone, but soon his eyes were on another thin figure. The figure looks young, although the physique is thin, but very strong and vigorous in action. There is also a unique logo of the Whitebeard pirates on his back. It is Ace who chased Blackbeard. When he saw Ace stopping Blackbeard and his group in a wide open space, Dover sniffed the fresh body scent of the girl beside him and the warmth of the girl on his arm. His eyes were extremely deep and said, "The chapter that opened the prelude to the new era has been opened. Xiao xiao xiao. The future is really more and more worth looking forward to." Impel Grand Prison. The 6th floor, Eternal Hell. Crocodile. The sand crocodile who has been imprisoned here for nearly 2 years, unexpectedly watched Virgo and Shiryu, the great warden of Impel Down, walking towards him. A marine vice admiral and a prison guard. What is it for lousy? The sand crocodile gave a sneer and said with a sneer, "Lord Crocodile." Virgo bowed slightly to the sand crocodile and said, "Master, young master asked me to tell you that the prelude of the new era is about to begin. Please be fully prepared." Crocodile's pupils suddenly widened, and the sneer on his lips gradually expanded into the long-awaited smile full of ambition and bloodthirsty. "Ha ha 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 ha, is that guy finally going to act? Lousy can't wait any longer." So, Crocodile's eyes turned to Shiryu beside Virgo. "What's the matter with this guy? Know my secret, do you want to kill him?" Crocodile's initial sneer and questioning were naturally because he didn't know Shiryu's position and said deliberately. Virgo's eyes also turned to Shiryu, and his right hand was faintly pinched into the shape of a ghost claw, covered with strands of cold ghost fire. Virgo said calmly. Guardian Shiryu, you already know the secret of Master Young Master. Whether you choose to be loyal to Master Young Master from now on, or continue to be Marine's running dog, you must make a decision. Shiryu was dangling a cigar, and the sparks on the cigar appeared scarlet in the dark eternal hell. Shiryu looked at Crocodile who was approaching. The seastone handcuffs that trapped him must be just decorations. He looked at the ghost fire on Virgo's right paw again, which made him feel palpitations, and he smiled. If I choose to refuse, I am afraid I won't be able to get out of this 6th floor today. Wilgo's face remained unchanged. Master Young Master believes that Warden Shiryu is a wise man. Good birds choose trees to roost. You don't need to continue to follow Marine, the big ship that is about to capsize. Ha 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 ha. Shiryu Zhe laughed and looked at Virgo and Crocodile deeply. Your young master really knows Lousy enough. Well, Lousy will join you. This boring world, Lousy has long been bored. Virgo finally showed a smile on his face, saying, Welcome to join Master Young Master's command. With your help, this great underwater prison impelled down, presumably will disappear from the world completely soon. Humph. Shiryu sneered. That's not an easy task. Although I can help you deal with Magellan, if the Marine headquarters also intervenes, we can only escape from impelled down at best. This matter, you can rest assured, Marine will never spare any effort to control impelled down. Virgo said affirmatively. Shiryu's eyes flashed. Virgo is so sure. It seems that the mysterious young master must have a big earth-shattering plan that can make the entire Marine headquarters overwhelmed. Then Lousy will wait and see. The two are having a conversation. From the depths of eternal hell, suddenly there were a few cold, smirking voices. Gia 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 Gia. Hey, the two people outside, are you going to deal with Marine and world government? GG. Add us by the way. Our strength is not weaker than the sand crocodile by half a point. Katrine, Diome, Abalo Pizarro, you bastards, what did you just say? Crocodile stared fiercely at the people in the depths of eternal hell who had just spoken. Those people are the subordinates recruited by Blackbeard in the original work. GG, Sand Crocodile, don't be so stingy. Pizarro, the evil king, smiled and said, with our help, your plan can be carried out more smoothly. Humph. Crocodile sneered disdainfully. You rubbish, you are not qualified to be with Lousy. What's more, you just want to escape from impelled down, right? After Crocodile said in his heart, the evil king and the most evil female pirate Caitlin Demai, smiled embarrassingly. The huge battleship San Juan laughed said, It seems that people don't believe us, so there is no way myself. At this time, Shiryu said, If you really want to contend with Marine and the world government, you can't have too many powerful people. Although these people are cruel and secretive, they are really powerful. Your mysterious young master, if you can let them surrender willingly. If it is the best. With that said, Shiryu felt that it was unlikely. After all, the evil king and others, themselves are extremely ambitious top powerhouses. How can they easily surrender to the so-called young master who has never seen him? It was the same with Shiryu himself. He agreed to join Virgo's gang, only based on the strength of Virgo and Crocodile, plus the boring place of impelled down that was already impatient. If Shiryu were truly loyal to Dover from then on, it would be impossible. Virgo knew this too, but he didn't care. Virgo had no doubts that when Shiryu met the young master, the latter would never have the courage to raise any rebellious thoughts. Including the others in eternal hell, in front of the young master's hockey, who is like a 9-day god, what counts? Gaia Island. Blackbeard didn't know that the crew he wanted to subdue had already begun to surrender to others. Blackbeard was in trouble at the moment. He sneered darkly, staring at the strong young man who stopped him. Captain Ace, I didn't expect that I escaped here, but you found them all. The youth is Ace. Teach. An extremely angry, almost gritted voice came from Ace's mouth. Ace clenched his fist tightly. You bastard. Why did you kill Sachi? Sachi, what hatred do you have? Enmity. Blackbeard laughed. No, not at all. On the contrary, Sachi and I used to be brothers. But Blackbeard's eyes cast a sullen look, and a hint of fanatical color passed. There are so many weird things, I only blame Saki one step ahead of me and find such a thing. So I am also very helpless. The fact that Saki must be killed makes me very sad, Captain Ace. Shut up. Teach's indifferent tone made Ace instantly angry to the point where it could not be added. Just to kill a dead thing like that, you kill Sachi, Teach, you bastard, it makes me so angry that I don't know what to say. Thief, ha 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 ha. Captain Ace, you are so wrong about that. Blackbeard laughed wildly. That's the only dark fruit in the world. How can it be evaluated by a mere dead thing? Blackbeard raised his right hand, and the black breath gradually came to his fist. Did you see it? This is the power of dark fruit, powerful enough to shock the world, Captain Ace. Teach, you are still really hopeless. Forget it, since you are so superstitious about the so-called power, let me test how much your strength has grown. The next moment, Ace threw away his baggage, slammed his feet on the ground, and rushed towards the Blackbeard group. Blackbeard gave a grinning grin, and opened his black fingers. Dark water. The same pitch-black fists as Ace collided. Soon. Blackbeard's face changed. Suddenly, Ace was not a capable person, but the means to neutralize his abilities didn't work for him. Is this the so-called dark power of dark fruit? It's nothing more than that. Ace yelled coldly, and the fist covered in armed color poured out with a huge force. Not good. Blackbeard was shocked. He had never played against Ace before, thinking that he was just a hairy boy at best, and he couldn't be so powerful. Unexpectedly, his armament hockey had actually cultivated to this level. Blackbeard was taken carelessly, his body was directly blown out by that strong force, and he flew out dozens of meters before stopping. Cough cough. Blackbeard wiped away the blood from the corners of his mouth, looked at Ace coldly, and said with a smile. So strong hockey and strength, you deserve to be Captain Ace, I underestimated you. Captain, it's too embarrassing, I was beaten up by the opponent as soon as I came up. Would you like us to help? Badgers and others watched the battle, and said with a smile. Look at it first, the true power of dark fruit, Lousy hasn't used it yet. Blackbeard pressed his hands to the ground, and the endless dark color spread from his hands to the surrounding ground. The secret point. Like the black water of hell, it swallowed everything in. Ace frowned, dark fruit was indeed a bit weird. But at this speed, trying to catch him is just wishful thinking. Ace launched observation hockey and jumped directly to the area that Blackbeard's dark acupuncture path could not cover, and then slammed his fist and attacked Blackbeard again. Above the sky. Vivi was surprised at first that the ugly fellow Blackbeard could even use the power of darkness. But then, the corners of her blushing lips formed an arc of disapproval. The dark power that man used is so weak. Compared to Vivi, which can permeate the dark atmosphere of the whole hall in an instant, the dark acupuncture path used by Blackbeard is undoubtedly as slow as a snail. And Vivi can still feel that the darkness released by Blackbeard is also quite inferior. If the darkness of Vivi is the highest level of darkness, then what Blackbeard uses at this time is the low level of darkness. Vivi can guarantee that he has only a small hand stretched out, he will absorb the darkness of the opponent and counterattack the opponent. Dover is not an accident. Of course, the difference between the counterfeit dark fruit and the real dark fruit cannot be justified. Looking at the battle below, Blackbeard obviously did not expect that his dark fruit is so weak, or his Ace too strong. Just a moment after the confrontation, Blackbeard was hit by Ace several punches, so that his body, which was extremely sensitive to pain, screamed. Asshole, Blackbeard rolled again tens of meters, with bloodline on his head. He stared at Ace on the opposite side, and the next moment, Blackbeard Teach showed a fierce expression on his face. Little ones, go together and kill this guy. Ha 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 ha. Captain, if you need us to talk early, your dark fruit, it seems that it will take some time to develop. Captain of the Whitebeard 2nd Division, interesting. Catch him and give it to Marine as a meeting gift, so you don't have to go to that Bellamy. Immediately, the Blackbeard pirates swarmed up and headed towards Ace to besiege. Too despicable. At high altitude, Vivi was a bit aggrieved. Dover had anticipated this scene a long time ago. With Blackbeard's character, once you find that dark fruit is not enough, you won't worry about winning with more than less. Individual. New World. When the red-haired Shanks heard that Blackbeard Teach had defected and Ace was chasing him by himself, he couldn't help feeling very anxious. He sent someone to see Whitebeard, but he closed the door. So, Red Hair had to come to the door in person to meet Whitebeard. As soon as he boarded the mobile, Conqueror's Hockey, which claims to be the only one in the world that can cause physical damage, gave everyone in the Whitebeard Pirates a predicament. Goo la 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 la. Red-haired kid, Are you in front of Lousy? Are you demonstrating? Whitebeard leaned on the large seat, his eyes drooping, watching the man walking towards him step by step and finally sitting in front of him. Years ago, this man was just a humble intern on Roger's ship. Unexpectedly, it has now become the new world, the hot new four emperors. Even if it's him, Whitebeard, he can't just take it lightly. No. How can you dare to be presumptuous in front of you? 723. The red hair chuckled. After all, you are an old senior at the same time as Captain Roger, and you are just a junior underneath. When Whitebeard heard the words, his eyes condensed, and then he laughed bravely. Red-haired kid, are you saying that the old man is old? The atmosphere on both sides suddenly became a little tense. Redhead then took out a large jug of wine. This is a specialty wine from my hometown, but New World doesn't have it. With that, he poured a bowl for Whitebeard. After the two made a bowl, Red Hair finally expressed his intention. I heard that Ace went after Qiwuhai. The red-haired voice became deeper, and he reached out and touched the 3 long and narrow scars on his left eye. This scar is left by Teach. Even if I think about it now, I still feel a palpitation. In the next moment, Red Hair looked at the world's strongest man in front of him with an unprecedented solemn look, but he could not hide his aging man, and said solemnly. You know, that guy Teach is not that simple. He is hidden on your ship, he is not the captain, nor is he famous, waiting for the opportunity, and one day, he will come to take your throne, Whitebeard. The sound was like thunder, making the entire Moby Dick silent in an instant. Whitebeard's eyes seemed to change for an instant, but it quickly returned to its original state. Whitebeard and the red hair stared at each other. The air seems to have frozen. Above the sky was still clear, but I don't know when, but it was already covered with dark clouds. So, what do you want me to do, redhead kid? Whitebeard uttered aloud. No joy or anger was heard. Stop Ace. Call him back, the red hair said firmly. Ha 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 ha. Whitebeard listened, but suddenly burst into laughter. When the laughter stopped, Whitebeard said. Teach committed an unforgivable crime on board. Teach him, but my father must do it. The red hair was silent. In fact, he knew before he came that he didn't persuade Whitebeard that much, but the redhead still had to try it. Because, this incident is not only due to Blackbeard Teach, but also a factor that makes red hair more worried and even extremely disturbed, hidden in it. Whitebeard, it's actually not just for helping Teach. The red-haired voice suddenly became extremely low. You should be aware that the chaos in the world is getting worse, and the times are experiencing an unprecedented riot. The red hair thought of the name Hawkeye had mentioned to him that day, and thought of Beckman and his speculation. The red hair suddenly clenched his fists, and said in a deep voice. To be honest, I suspect that there is a pair of invisible hands in all of this, pushing. Whether it is the chaos of the world or the matter of Ace and Teach, they are inseparable from those invisible hands. This statement came out. Even Whitebeard was shocked. Redhead, is there any basis for what you said? Whitebeard asked, narrowing his eyes. No. The red hair shook his head helplessly. These are my guesses, but Whitebeard, even if my guesses are only possible, you can't let Ace take the risk. It's not your style to say such unfounded words. Whitebeard was back to his original state. Obviously, he didn't take the redhead's speculation to heart. Goo la 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 la. Whitebeard's eyes opened and closed. Although his body was old and still contracted with illness, the spirit of the world's strongest man on his body did not decrease by half. Red-haired kid, you want to point fingers at me, it's 100 years too early. At this point, Redhead knew that there was no room for recovery, and Whitebeard seemed to refuse to follow his advice. The red hair stood up silently, he drew his sword out of its sheath and stared at Whitebeard in front of him. Things will become unstoppable. What the times will become, even you and I cannot control it. Whitebeard, do you understand? Goo la la la. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard looked up to the sky and laughed, an aura that only dominated an era, an extremely strong man, rising from him. What if you understand? What if you don't understand? Asshole red-haired kid, you are still too young. In such an era, it is not worth fearing at all. Whitebeard pulled out behind him, and Kong Yunchi, one of the supreme big knives, shouted words that would awe the world. Lousy, but Whitebeard. In the next second, Whitebeard's cloud cut, and the red-haired western sword collided. In an instant, the situation changed color. The sky where the dark clouds gathered seemed to split apart from the middle. When Red Hair and Whitebeard were in an earth-shattering duel, Ace's situation was already extremely bad. Under the siege of the Blackbeard pirates, even if Ace is not weak, it will inevitably be dangerous. None of Blackbeard's subordinates are weak. Blackbeard himself is even more sinister and old. Aside from dark fruit, his strength can also leave a scar on Red Hair. Above the sky, Dover stood with his hand in hand. Everything was in his expectation. In front of Blackbeard, who used everything, Ace was still too young and vigorous, and it was only a matter of time before he lost. So many people hit one, it's shameless. Vivi's little face was a little upset. Maybe Blackbeard ate the inferior version of dark fruit, which caused Vivi to eat the real dark fruit in 4.6. Subconsciously, he was extremely repulsive to the former. Shameless, just for the loser. Such an evaluation has no meaning for the winner. Dover said lightly. Vivi was startled. The beautiful eyes of the girl, obsessively looking at the man's indifferent and deep face. Brother Dover can always say such things that are incomprehensible but very reasonable. Vivi's sapphire blue eyes rolled, and immediately smiled with a hint of sly. That person didn't make a mistake just now. That guy has always been in the hands of Brother Dover. Isn't he an eternal loser? Dover couldn't help laughing. Vivi, the little girl, has become his woman since he ate dark fruit. But to a certain extent, this is also the performance that Vivi has grown up and can be on its own. Redhead and Whitebeard just got a shot. The sky and the earth faded, and the sky seemed to crack in the middle. The strength of the four emperors is so powerful, you can see Madara. But the Red Hair still failed to achieve his goal after all. He sighed and left the Whitebeard pirates. It seems that Whitebeard hasn't agreed. Beckman came behind the redhead Shanks. The Red Hair did not respond. He looked up at the gloomy sky, as if it were in this era, which made him feel more and more elusive. Beckman took a deep sip of his cigar and said, Red Hair, we also have to prepare as soon as possible. An unprecedented chaos is coming. The Red Hair was silent. For a long time, he seemed to have made some determination, and said in a deep voice. The news of Ace is closely watched, especially the news from Marine. The Red Hair has a hunch that the unprecedented huge chaos will be set off from Marine. And Captain Roger's son Ace, I am afraid that by that time, the hidden hands behind him and the ambitious generations will be used as pawns to start chaos. Gaia Island. There is nothing wrong with the redhead hunch. Under the siege of the Blackbeard pirates, Ace was defeated after all. Blackbeard was sitting on Ace's fainted body, with a large mouth with missing teeth, and the bloodline that was broken by Ace when he was fighting 11 years ago on his forehead. Thief, ha 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 ha. Worthy of Captain Ace, it really cost us a lot of work. If you continue to grow, you might really become the next daddy. Thief, ha ha. But your future ends here. Blackbeard's eyes flashed treacherously, and said to Lafayette, the navigator in the crew. Lafayette, I will bother you to go to the Marine headquarters and tell Marine that Lousy is going to exchange the Whitebeard Pirates 2nd Division Captain Ace for a Shichibukai position. Understood, Captain. Lafayette wore a pointed black hat, holding a black umbrella stick, and smiled. Marine will never refuse such a perfect deal. Lafayette set off immediately. He has the ability to make it difficult for ordinary people to detect his whereabouts, so he easily entered the Marine headquarters, Marineford. Today's Marineford, the atmosphere is even more depressing. Just to suppress the repeated rebellions around the world every day, Marine will consume a large amount of force, and the manpower, material resources and money spent are even more difficult to count. The Marshal's office, Sengoku, known as the resourceful general, has been frowning every day for the past year. The chaotic situation in the world can be described as one wave after another, which made him feel devastated. More than that, Celestial Dragons is still messing up with him right now, and it actually doubled the gold in the sky. Sengoku, who heard the news at the time, almost couldn't help but jump. His old friend Garp almost turned his face against him. Sengoku's face was pale, and finally went to talk to 5 elders. 5 elders finally gave it back to him, made countless contributions to the world government, and served as Marshal Marine for decades, and agreed not to let Celestial Dragons continue to mess around. But 5 elders also gave Sengoku a dead order, which is 1. Look for all existences related to the king. This is actually a message from the Supreme Lord Yimu to 5 elders that day. Sengoku frowned and took the order, but how to do this is a headache for him. Wong. The coverage of this word is too big. After all, there are kings in every country. If these kings are really captured, it is better to let celestial dragons continue to mess around. Therefore, Sengoku did not think about the kings of the country at all. It was too unrealistic. In addition to the king, there are also existences that are related to the king and can make 5 elders extremely nervous. There are only Pluton, Poseidon, Uranus, the 3 ancient weapon, and One Piece, Gore D. Roger. The 3 ancient weapons are legendary things. Whether they exist or not is still uncertain. Sengoku, where can I find ancient weapon for a while? Therefore, Sengoku's gaze can only be placed on the last point, One Piece King Gear, D. Roger. Roger has been dead for almost 20 years, but the words he said before his execution still affect the world. The world situation has developed to such a degree, and Roger is inseparable from it. Now, Sengoku sat in the marshal's office, frowning in thought. He lowered his head and looked at a bounty order on the table. The amount of bounty on it had reached 500 million. Look at the young portrait with a bright smile on the reward order. It is actually Ace. Ace, the son of Roger, the pirate king. I noticed him when he just showed his name in the sea. Sengoku's eyes were low. I wanted to invite him to be Shicibukai, and took the opportunity to catch him, but he ran to Whitebeard's boat and became the captain. Ace got on Whitebeard's boat, making Sengoku, who wanted to catch Ace, no longer dare to act rashly. But now, Sengoku, who has accepted the order of 5 elders, has to act. Do you want to go to a complete war with the Whitebeard pirates? Sengoku seemed very hesitant and scrupulous. Whitebeard, the man with the power to destroy the world, is not that easy to deal with. Sengoku quickly rejected the idea of a marine taking the initiative to attack the Whitebeard territory. After all, even if Marine can win, it must be a miserable victory, not the result Sengoku wants. The best way is to induce Ace to leave Whitebeard's boat. Sengoku was thinking about how to separate Ace from Whitebeard, when he raised his eyebrows, looked out the window, and said coldly, "Who is hiding there? Hip hop, I've been spotted. You really deserve to be the man standing at the top of Marine." Outside the window, a black shadow flashed, revealing a figure. 727 is Blackbeard's navigator Lafayette. "Who are you?" Sengoku looked at the visitor with a calm face. Like Blackbeard for decades, the subordinates he recruited were not well known before. Under the Blackbeard pirates, so is Lafayette. Lafayette made a circle on the window, glanced at Ace's reward order on the Sengoku table, and smiled. "The purpose of my coming here is to solve an annoying matter for you, the marshal. At the same time, to ask our captain for a Shicibukai appointment letter." Blackbeard pirates? Lafayette? Shicibukai? This series of messages made Sengoku frown even deeper. It seems that someone is eyeing Shichibukai's position that was vacated after Crocodile stepped down. The Shichibukai quota has been vacant because there is no suitable candidate. But, what is the origin of the Blackbeard pirate group? What are they going to use to exchange Shichibukai's position? Sengoku faintly felt that it was not easy. When Lafayette said the terms of the exchange, Sengoku's eyes suddenly widened. No one knew about this transaction in the marshal's office except Sengoku. Only know the next day. Marine Marshal Sengoku suddenly informed all Marine that they would publicly execute Whitebeard Pirates 2nd Division Captain Ace. As soon as the news came out, the whole world was shaken. The news that Ace was about to be executed publicly spread all over the world in an instant. The captain of the 2nd team of the Whitebeard Pirates is the Ace who made his reputation on the Grand Line more than a year ago, right? It's unbelievable, so young will be killed by Marine. Huh. Who made him a pirate? Marine is justified in killing a pirate. But don't forget that there is Whitebeard. It is said that Whitebeard is very short-handed. It is estimated that war will break out between the two sides. The world is going to be chaotic again. Ordinary people like us should find a strong backer earlier, it's true. People talked a lot. Some people feel sorry for Ace. Some people worry that the Whitebeard pirates will be involved in a war with Marine. Others are indifferent. But no matter what, when the news spread across the sea, everyone knew that the contradiction between Marine and 4 emperors was completely public. East Blue. Windmill Village of Goa Kingdom. Garp almost broke with Sengoku because of Celestial Dragon's more and more greedy heavenly gold incident, and didn't care much about Marine anymore. He had nothing to teach his grandson Luffy to practice at home, as if he was a retired old man. However, although Garp seems to be indifferent to everything, in fact, he has been following the news of the world. The chaos of the world, the cruelty of celestial dragons, and the suffering of the people, how can Garp really feel relieved? And this day. Forest in Kinderdijk. As usual, Garp lay on the armchair while drinking tea leisurely. Luffy was not far away, rubber, yelling like a monkey. Garp looked at Luffy and suddenly thought of his other grandson. Ace. That bastard, secretly ran out without telling the old man and went as a pirate. Damn it. Thinking of Ace, Garp is out of anger. When Ace asked him to teach cultivation practice, Garp really thought that Ace had become enlightened and wanted to be a powerful seaman. But I didn't want to. That bastard actually lied to him and ran to be a pirate, and in a short time he made a big name. Garp gritted his teeth while offering a reward for Ace, but he was inevitably relieved in his heart. That bastard, it's a bit of Roger's back then. When Ace joined the Whitebeard pirates and was sheltered by Whitebeard, Garp was basically relieved. Garp knows the origins of Whitebeard, and Roger, the strongest man in the world, will definitely not treat Ace badly. Garp thought, took a sip of tea, picked up the newspaper next to him, and glanced at it. The next moment, Garp spouted a sip of tea, and his eyes were about to bulge out. In the newspaper, the big words, Ace Execution, were printed in Garp's pupils. Grandpa. What's wrong? What's wrong? Has something happened? On the tree, Luffy, who was practicing, looked over curiously. Garp was startled, and quickly shredded the newspaper, put it in his pocket, and smiled. It's okay. Grandpa has something to do. You have to go back to the Marine headquarters, Luffy. You can practice hard at home, and you must not run around. Huh. I know, Grandpa Smelly. Luffy grimaced. Garp saw him, but his nose was sore that he almost shed tears. If you let Luffy know that Ace is about to be executed by Marine, you will never see such a cute smile. Garp turned around. The original tall and mighty back figure seemed a little rickety at this time. Upon closer inspection, you will find that his hands in his pockets are still trembling slightly. Grand Line, White Earth Island, Baldigo. Here is the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. Ace. At this moment, in the Revolutionary Army's discussion hall, there was a cry that was shocked to ultimate. What happened? Did an enemy invade? The cadres of the Revolutionary Army rushed into the conference hall. It was surprising to find that the Chief of Staff Sabo, who is known for his calmness and intelligence and was trained by the leader long as the second-generation successor, was actually holding the newspaper with his hands, and his eyes were almost bloodshot. Sabo. What's the matter with you? Koala in the green clothes stepped forward and asked worriedly. She looked at the newspaper that Sabo was staring at. It was the news that Ace, the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, was about to be executed by Marine. Ace? Is that Sabo's brother? Koala suddenly understood the reason for Sabo's abnormality. As early as more than a year ago, when Ace's name was first passed to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army, Sabo at that time awakened his memory and recognized Ace. The core figure in the Revolutionary Army also knew that Ace, who had made a big name in the Grand Line, had a very close relationship with his chief of staff. As a result, everyone was even more worried, for fear that Sabo would lose his composure and do something irrational. In the worried eyes of Koala and other Revolutionary Army cadres, for a long time, Sabo took a deep breath. Turning around, his eyes are extremely firm, and he walks out. I'm going to see Mr. Long. Along with the spread of the news that Ace was about to be executed, a secret order forced by the government was sent to all 7 warlords of the sea. The content of the secret order is that all 7 warlords of the sea must go to Marineford on the day of Ace's execution. If you don't agree, you will be deprived of the name Shicibukai. Calm Belt. Amazon Lily Island, daughter country. When Boa Hancock received this secret order with her face cold and arrogant and unattainable like an iceberg, she just glanced at her beautiful eyes, threw it into the sea and fed sea kings. Marine Vice Admiral, who had come to deliver the letter, said with a green face. Boya Hancock, do you know the consequences of doing this? Hancock glanced at the flying squirrel indifferently, and his cold gaze from above, like a supreme queen, looking down on mortals. Yumo's face changed, and he couldn't help but jumped up, his heart was shocked. This pirate empress is getting more and more terrifying. Behind the empress, Marigold and Sandersonia, the 2 younger sisters of the empress, looked at the back of her sister with admiration. Ever since I met the terrifying man named Doflamingo in New World and captured the Celestial Dragons incident, the empress became more and more cold and untouchable. Even if they are relatives, they dare not enter and leave the palace of the empress at will, and the palace is a forbidden place that no one can approach. While the Empress became even colder, the haki on her body was actually increasing day by day, reaching the point where both Mary Groud and Sandersonia found it incredible. Sister Sama's haki is getting more and more shocking. Yes, even Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral is scared. Haha, after all, my sister, but she works hard in her room every day to cultivate. Marigold and Sandersonia thought that the Empress was in the bedroom all day long and was working hard to practice. Fu, in the void, a breeze suddenly rose. The female emperor's two white and tender jade hands, and her black and beautiful buttocked hair swayed back, a beauty that was almost impossible to look at directly. So beautiful, too, so beautiful, it's so beautiful that I can't open my eyes. Such an immortal, is it bad to even look at it? The seamen on the opposite marine warship, their eyes all turned into red hearts, and even the light of the Empress could not open their eyes. Yumo's face was even more ashen to the extreme, but when he glanced at the pirate Empress opposite, his heart suddenly bulged. The beauty of ultimate, even the pain of inserting a sword into the sole of his foot, couldn't be concealed. Yumo lowered his head almost subconsciously, not daring to look at the Empress again. Hancock contemptuously warned the Marines on the opposite side, and the corners of his lips were very touching, with sarcasm. A bunch of stinky men. Then, Hancock directly turned and left, leaving only the intoxicating fragrance lingering in place, and the beautiful sound that seemed to be crooked and phoenix that made everyone surprised, slowly came. The concubine knows about this. Go back and tell your marshal that the concubine will be there by herself that day. Immediately, Hancock's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. Everyone, including the Impressa sisters Marigold and Sandersonia, is also full of question marks. Sister Sama, actually agreed? Yumo is also extremely unbelievable. Seeing the posture of the Empress just now, he is ready to stay here for 10.5 days. Didn't expect that the other party actually agreed. While Yumo was shocked and puzzled, he also breathed a sigh of relief. If the other party didn't agree, with the amazing haki of the pirate Empress and the beauty that made him dare not look directly at it, the mouse actually had no way at all, and even the other party could kill his party at any time. However, what Yushu, Marigold, Sandersonia and others would never think of was that after the Empress disappeared, she returned to her bedroom in a blink of an eye. When the door of the bedroom was closed tightly, the cold expression of the Empress, which was originally unattainable, turned out to be Zhe Ran Tha, and there was a girlish shyness. Hancock's beautiful eyes were almost obsessed, looking at the portraits of men on the wall, the porcelain white jade hands holding his braised pretty face. Shicibukai compulsory summoning order, then he will definitely go, right? At the same time, the owner of the wall portrait, in Dressrosa, also received a mandatory summoning order from Marine. Buddha Xiaohei. Dover let out an unexplained low laugh, and stood up under the gaze of Monet and other women who surrounded him. His deep and secluded gaze seemed to have passed through time and saw the unprecedented battle that was destined to happen. It's finally about to start. Then, I have to go to Wano-kuni again. Marine Headquarters, Marineford, Marshal's office. The door was slammed open. Garp suppressed the angry figure and walked in. Garp, Sengoku looked at the old comrade in arms whom he hadn't seen for a while, and immediately guessed what he was coming from. Sengoku. I saw Garp walked straight to Sengoku, slapped his palms heavily on the table, and slammed the ladder. Why should Ace be executed publicly? Even if he is a pirate, Marine does not need to do this. You really came here for this, Garp. Sengoku also stared back at the old comrade in arms, and said loudly. You should understand why this is. Whose child is that guy, Ace? Don't tell me you don't know, Garp. Garp's aggressive tone couldn't help but stagnate. Sengoku then shouted angrily. Also, the reason why Ace was able to escape the chase of the government and grow up to where it is today, Garp, don't think that the old man doesn't know what role you played in it. Garp's momentum is even worse. He didn't expect that everything had been found by Sengoku. Garp couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. If he was an ordinary pirate, Garp could still rely on his identity as a marine hero to survive. However, since Ace's true identity has been known by Sengoku, no matter what he says, there is no room for recovery. Garp gritted his teeth and sat down. But, there is always a reason, Sengoku? Sengoku saw that Garp calmed down a bit, and his tone slowed down. He told Garp the reason for the Blackbeard pirates who handed Ace to Marine. Blackbeard teach, Garp repeated the name he heard for the first time. Sengoku, such an ambitious man who has endured for decades on the Whitebeard ship, is not trustworthy at all, let alone give him the title of Shicibukai. It's not a question of whether you believe Blackbeard or not, Sengoku said in a deep voice. Don't you understand? Garp, how dangerous is the crisis hidden under the surface of the world? The prestige of the world government and marine has reached a precarious point. We need an unprecedented victory, a victory sufficient to warn those ambitious eyes hiding in the dark to stop this increasingly chaotic era of great pirates. Garp shook his whole body suddenly, his fists couldn't help rubbing tightly, and his gray beard trembled. So, do you want to use Ace's identity to deter other forces and re-establish the prestige of the world government? Sengoku asked without evasiveness. Am I doing this wrong? Garp gritted his teeth and said unwillingly, but what caused this situation in the world is inseparable from the hopeless celestial dragons. Sengoku, you can't blame everything on one child. Ace is not as simple as a child, he is the son of the One Piece King Gear D. Roger, and the captain of the second team of the Whitebeard Pirates. Sengoku responded coldly. In addition, I have talked to 5 elders. Whether it is to converge on celestial dragons, Ace must die. The old man has already decided, plus days later, in front of the whole world, to execute the son of One Piece King Gear D. Roger. Sengoku's decisive voice echoed in Garp's ears. The despair in Garp's heart spread to his eyes. Know your position, Garp. Garp was speechless, his expression was never gloomy. After a long time, Garp spoke hoarsely. Let the old man go to see Ace for the last time, don't worry, the old man won't be fooling around. Your brother Ace, 10 days from now, will be publicly executed at Marineford. So, what do you want me to do, Sabo? Revolutionary Army Headquarters. The Monkey D. Dragon, who was shrouded in a dark green windbreaker, placed his hands on the table and quietly looked at the young man in front of him. Sabo's body is like a javelin, standing there straight, Kata without hesitation. Save Ace. Long Wenyan smiled softly. According to what you said a year ago, Ace, you, and my son Luffy are the best 3 brothers. I really should save Ace because of my feelings. But, Sabo yo, you will not forget our revolution. The idea of the army. Sacrificing the achievements of the Revolutionary Army for so many years for the sake of one person. I can't do something like that. I understand Mr. Long's scruples. The firmness in Sabo's eyes remained unchanged. I have already decided, this time to save Ace. It's just my wayward move alone, it has nothing to do with the Revolutionary Army. Long looked deeply at the determined young man before him. After a while, he stood up, walked in front of Sabo, patted Sabo on the shoulder, and laughed. Sure enough, I didn't misunderstand you, Sabo. I can rest assured that the Revolutionary Army will be handed over to you in the future. Sabo was taken aback, wondering why Mr. Long said these words suddenly. And then, Mr. Long's words made him extremely surprised, and moved almost to tears. Ha ha ha. Sabo, how can you, the chief of the general staff of the Revolutionary Army, enter the enemy's headquarters alone while your companions hide behind? A deep light flashed in the dragon's pupils. The Revolutionary Army has been silent for so long, it's time to do something. Sabo was very moved, but he also cared about the safety of his fellow revolutionaries. Mr. Long, there is no need to be alone because of me. Before he finished speaking, Long interrupted. No, it's not just because of you, Sabo. The dragon's voice suddenly became extremely low, and he said something that surprised and shocked Sabo. I have a faint feeling that this execution will trigger an unimaginable huge war. Some fogs that were invisible in the past will appear in this war. Especially the man behind the chaos in the world will definitely reveal his true face in this war. The news that Ace is about to be executed caused more commotion than Sengoku had imagined. Even the deeply hidden Revolutionary Army has to step in sideways this time. As for the 4 emperors of New World, naturally they have their own ideas. Wanokuni, the island of ghosts. When Kaido, who was drinking, heard that one of Whitebeard's captains had been arrested by the world government and was to be publicly executed. Kaido raised his head and drank a big sip, then stood up and laughed wildly. God helps me too. Ha 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 ha. The old man Whitebeard always treats his captain as his own son. He will definitely fight Marine. Below Kaido are the 3 plagues under his command. Jack the Drow said, Boss Kaido, so what? Do you have any good ideas? Plague Quinn cursed. It's stupid. I don't understand it. If Whitebeard fights Marine, his lair will not be empty. Jack's elephant's eyes widened suddenly, and he reacted. That way, we can take the opportunity to attack Whitebeard's territory. Jack immediately asked, Boss Kaido, let me be the pioneer. Quinn glanced at it and said in disgust, isn't the limelight last time in Punk Hazard enough? It's lousy Quinn's turn this time. Jack immediately stopped talking. Everyone looked at Kaido boss. The muscles on Kaido's face bulged up like iron body. He grinned and said, there is no need to fight, such a good opportunity, of course everyone will go. After all, that is the territory of the old man Whitebeard. Kaido didn't match Whitebeard when he was on the Rocks ship. But by the way, Whitebeard was much stronger than him at the time, and later, he became the strongest man in the world. In Kaido's mind, it is false to say not to be jealous and fearful. Therefore, given the opportunity to occupy Whitebeard's territory, he certainly will not miss it. In the original book, Kaido did exactly that at the top of the war, but unfortunately, it was blocked by red hair pirates. But Kaido was excited at this time, clenching his fists, ready to fight. It just so happens that there are a certain number of tyrants, so let's try their power. However, next second, without warning, a voice that seemed to be from the abyss came from the sky above the ghost island. Buddha howls, haha, Kaido, what's the point of occupying a territory with at most a sea area? If you want to occupy the world, Kaido. Mo Da's magnificent voice shocked everyone in the Kaido pirates. Especially the meaning of the words shocked them even more. As for Kaido and the three plagues, the moment they sounded, they knew who was coming. Only that person is qualified to call Kaido's name directly, and can say such things as occupying the world, right? Above the high altitude, a stalwart figure standing with holding hands slowly landed. Look at his figure, it's not Dover, who is it? Joker. After a deep jealousy flashed under Kaido's eyes, he immediately laughed and said, what wind brings you here? In his eyes, there is no concealment of scorching heat. Is there a new smile fruit, has it been produced? Dover descended on the ghost island, standing with his hands in his hands, his face remained unchanged. Dao. Smile fruit is so easy to produce. Kaido smiled awkwardly. The other party just brought him dozens of smile fruits not long ago, and he was too impatient. Kaido invited Dover to sit in the same row, and the three plagues sat down respectfully. Facing the increasingly terrifying man, they are now more restrained than in front of Kaido boss. Joker. What do you mean by occupying the world just now? Kaido looked inquiringly. Although I know that the man in front of me is becoming more and more unfathomable, but occupying the world, it is not possible to talk casually. The world government, which stood for 800 years in the world, could not even shake the One Piece Roger and the Rocks back then. How can it be so easy to say that occupation is occupied? Dover smiled deeply. Kaido, you also know that Marine is going to execute Ace, so you want to sneak attack on Whitebeard's territory, right? Kaido couldn't help but laughed awkwardly, taking advantage of the other's boss's absence, and attacking the other's nest. Although Kaido was not worried about doing this kind of thing, it was a bit unpleasant to say it. The Whitebeard pirates will definitely save Ace and confront Marine. This is inevitable, but... Dover's dark eyes became deeper and deeper, making Kaido's heart palpitations. Do you know why Marine took such a big risk and wanted to execute it publicly? In the history of Marine, public executions are not many. Marine catches pirates and usually sends them to jail or secretly executes them. The most vicious criminals will be sent to impel down. Public executions are extremely rare in Marine's history. Even in Kaido's impression, the last time Marine made such a fuss, it was the execution of the One Piece Roger. Thinking of this, Kaido was shocked and his eyes widened. Could it be that the kid named Ace? Yes. Dover's faint voice sounded like thunder in everyone's ears. Ace is the son of One Piece Roger. Suddenly, the entire Ghost Island was silent for a while. Yan Calamity Jhin said, no wonder, Marine will not hesitate to go to war with Whitebeard and will be executed in public. Quinn pinched his mustache and sneered, Marine is to beat the mountain and shake the tiger, kill the chicken and become a monkey. Knowing the identity of Ace, the purpose of Marine's public punishment was also revealed. Kaido was stunned for a moment, then drank a bowl of wine and said, unexpectedly, that fellow Roger still has heirs in the world, it's really sinister. In Kaido's view, Roger surrendered to Marine, which was really a foolish act. However, he actually left a child in secret, which can be described as continuing the blood of One Piece. Kaido, who claims that only oneself can become the next One Piece, is quite uncomfortable. But then, Dover's words made Kaido and the Three Plagues again astonished. It can be expected that once Ace's identity is exposed, it will shock the world. Apart from the Whitebeard pirates who will save Ace, another 4 emperors will not stand idly by. You mean the redhead Shanks? Yes. Red Hair used to be an intern on Roger's ship. He respects Roger the most. How could he allow the former captain's son to die at the hands of Marine? In the original book, the Red Hair does have to rush to the top of the war, but because it prevents Kaido from attacking Whitebeard's territory, time is wasted. By the time we arrived at Marineford, it was already late. Kaido's pupils full of infinite ambition suddenly burst into 2 terrifying lights. If the red-haired Shanks wants to intervene, they will be the 4 emperors, fighting against Marine headquarters. Regardless of Kaido's image of a reckless man, he is actually extremely shrewd except when he is drunk. The same is true for the other 4 emperors. She is sober-minded and good at calculations even without thinking about eating disorders. After all, it is impossible to be a fool to be the existence of 4 emperors. The 4 emperors are fighting against Marine. I am afraid that the entire Marineford will be destroyed. As mad as Quinn, his tone was full of shock at this time. Howl, howl ha ha ha, a deep, meaningful smile came from the terrifying man above. This is an unprecedented opportunity, Kaido. A war that will affect the entire world is about to break out. And after the war, the pattern of the world will also completely change. Marine will no longer have the power of the past. The world government, which has dominated the world for 800 years, will be in jeopardy. This is an unprecedented luxury feast. Kaido, don't you want to participate? The magnificent voice echoed throughout the Ghost Island. In everyone's heart, there was a terrible wave. Even if he is a foolish fool, he understands it at this moment. Master Joker is clearly inviting Boss Kaido to intervene in the destined earth-shattering war between 4 emperors and Marine. They also finally know what Master Joker said at the beginning, what it means to occupy the world. Originally, only the Whitebeard Pirates team played against Marine. It was obvious that Marine had a greater advantage. But even if Marine wins, with Whitebeard's terrifying power to destroy the world, Marine will surely suffer heavy casualties. Then, add Red Hair Pirates, the White Group and the Red Group versus Marine headquarters. The strength of the 2 sides has reached a relatively delicate balance. The disparity in strength is not so big anymore. It is difficult to say which of the 4 emperors' regiment and Marine headquarters will win. Or it may be possible that there is no winner. But, what if Kaido is added? That's 4 emperors' groups. The scale of victory will lean towards the pirates. Once Marine is defeated, the world will be completely overturned. The possibility of occupying the world is there. In comparison, a sneak attack on a sea area of a Whitebeard is insignificant. The pattern is far inferior. Everyone can't help being Lord Joker, the shocking plan, shocking inexplicable. Everyone in the Kaido Pirates has to admit that this man, in terms of measure alone, has surpassed their Kaido boss. Kaido's expression has never been moved at this time. He didn't know when his clenched fist was trembling slightly. Think of him, Kaido is also a top 4 emperor, and he is also the strongest creature in the sea, land and air, and the title of singles first. How can you recognize that the amount of equipment is not comparable to another man? What's more, Kaido is an extremely ambitious guy. His ambition is not only to be the Shanghai Pirate King, but also to dominate the world. And if there is a chance to pull down the biggest obstacle, Marine, who is undoubtedly the most powerful force in the sea, how can Kaido just let it go and let go of this opportunity? Seeing Kaido moved, Dover smiled slightly. As he had previously expected, for careerists like Kaido who are determined to dominate the world, world government and Marine are their biggest enemies. If they can defeat the biggest enemy first, even if they join forces with previous hostile forces, they will agree without hesitation. Dover's eyes narrowed slightly, flashing like the deep light of hell, and he said a word that made Kaido completely determined. Marine has forcibly called all Shicibukai. On the day of execution, when the Whitebeard Pirates are facing Red Hair Pirates and Marine headquarters, you Beasts Pirates are ready to go and let Marine be in chaos. And I will be lurking on Marine's side, and at a critical moment, first will give Marine a fatal blow.